New CBS News polling shows 53% of Americans say President Trump is doing a good job when it comes to handling the coronavirus pandemic. But at the same time, 66% say the Trump administration was unprepared to deal with the outbreak when it was first starting. Yesterday, President Trump signaled some Americans could return to work soon, despite health officials continuing to call for social distancing. CBS News White House correspondent Paula Reid joins me now from the White House. And Paula, what kind of timeline is the president thinking when it comes to easing restrictions, and what's behind this messaging?
Well, it appears the president is laying the groundwork to reopen sectors of the economy and send folks back to work. As you know, we are currently in the middle of the White House's campaign, 15 days to slow the spread. And the president said on Monday, at the end of this 15-day period, he'll make an announcement about whether he wants to reopen society. Last night, he said it will be a matter of weeks, not months, before he wants to reopen the country. But medical experts, including one of his top experts, Dr. Birx, who is up there on stage with him, they're not so sure. She says she is waiting for more data to see exactly where we are in this outbreak.
One of the top experts on the president's coronavirus task force, Dr. Anthony Fauci, was not at yesterday's briefing. Do we know why?
It's a great question. The president was asked this, and he said that he had been with Dr. Fauci for quite some time during the coronavirus task force meeting. He also, though, said that the world-renowned infectious disease specialist was not at yesterday's briefing because his area of expertise was not being discussed. Now, that really doesn't make any sense. But this morning, the president was tweeting some nice things about Dr. Fauci, mostly nice things the doctor has said about the president. And Fauci has been doing other media appearances. In fact, this morning, Fauci was asked if there was any tension between him and the president. He suggested that this is something that the media is drumming up. But let's just be clear. I was at that briefing yesterday. I didn't think much of the fact that Dr. Fauci wasn't there. I attend a lot of these briefings. It's a rotating cast of characters. But I was inundated with questions on email and over Twitter from colleagues, from my sister-in-law, from friends, from followers on Twitter asking, where is Dr. Fauci? So this is not something the media created. It was really significant. In fact, maybe more significant than his absence was the public interest in where he was. It's clear this is someone the public trusts on coronavirus. This is someone the public wants to hear from, and they're very concerned about any suggestion or hint that his job status here in the government is not secure.
Paula, during a radio interview this morning, Dr. Fauci dismissed any rifts between him and the White House, saying that when he makes recommendations, President Trump listens. I mean, what do we know about Dr. Fauci's relationship with the White House behind the scenes?
Look, he's been here for a long time. He has advised every president since Ronald Reagan. He has a lot of credibility, certainly with government officials, with journalists. And because he is a doctor, he's not a businessman, he's not a politician, he's a doctor, he has a little more leeway to contradict the president and not necessarily always carry the party line. In this interview, though, he said at the core, he and the president tend to agree on most issues. He said even though the president may express things differently, Fauci said the president has, quote, never countered me or never overridden me. But the fact is, we know that they do have disagreements, even public disagreements. Fauci said in a different interview a day or so ago that he will not use the term Chinese virus that the president has used to describe the coronavirus. Fauci said, look, I don't use that. I'm not going to use that. So it's clear he is willing to break with the president publicly, and that's pretty rare here at this White House. That has, of course, raised a lot of concerns about whether his job is safe. But so far, the president does seem to understand that the public puts a lot of stock in his expertise, and this is someone that the president really does want at this critical moment.
We know the Senate is working on a nearly $2 trillion stimulus bill to help counter the economic impact of the coronavirus. Democrats have raised some concerns over a $500 billion funding proposal from Republicans that would give the Treasury Department a lot of power over who receives that money. And you asked President Trump about this. What was his response?
I did. Specifically asked him who was going to hold the Treasury accountable as they had oversight over this $500 billion fund. And at first, the president just defended the idea of having a fund. But with follow-ups, I made it clear, no, they're concerned there's no one watching over the Treasury. And the president suggested that he could provide oversight. Now, this, of course, is not going to be reassuring to many Democrats because the president has not been willing to say that, in fact, his businesses, which are also facing economic hardship right now, will not in any way benefit from the stimulus. So this is something that certainly made a lot of headlines. There were concerns by some Democrats that this really could undermine whether the fund would make it into the eventual agreement. But our Nancy Cortez is reporting this morning that the Treasury has now agreed that the name of any big business that gets a loan from this $500 billion fund that would have to be released within 72 hours with no exceptions. Now, it's not clear if that will be amenable to everyone. Some folks may want to know before they get the money, but it was significant. The president did not truly seem to have any response or suggestion to allay these concerns about who is going to oversee all of this money as it was handed out.
And Paula, lastly, what does President Trump need to see in this bill in order to sign it?
He wasn't very clear about this when he was asked yesterday. He tends to speak in broad generalities. He wants to see individuals in this country get a check, maybe more than one check. He also talks extensively about the airlines, the need to help them, the need to help Boeing. But he's also said, when pressed by reporters, that he would support provisions in the bill that do not allow these companies to do any stock buybacks. And look, this entire negotiation, you really know that the tension, the distrust between many Democrats and President Trump looms large here, in addition to concerns about deals that were made back in 2008. And so far, this administration has not been really clear about the lessons that they learned from a lot of the bailouts back in 2008, things that they would do differently. And there are a lot of concerns, not just with Democrats, but even with some folks within the president's own party about the size and scope of the stimulus and how they will ensure that if taxpayers help these companies, how taxpayers will eventually be made whole.
Okay, Paula Reid following all of this for us from the White House. Thank you so much.